Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so nice to have you all here for Bookaccino Live for August. And boy, do we have an interesting selection of books for you. Here we go. Let's start with your top picks from July's presentation. First was Culpability by Bruce Holsinger, which is also one of my bets on selections. And it is also a book that I did an interview with him as well. So there's a book that is really interesting about AI. And I'm kind of fascinated the way AI is a topic of conversation just about every day and throughout the day. And I'm thinking that almost 30 years ago, when we started the site, how the internet grew so slowly and how things happened in different order. It's like, 600,000 people on AOL was a big deal, or a million. But now we're discussing AI as it's parts of so many different parts of our lives. And I feel like it's come on like this as something we have to look at. So it's dealt with in this book of a car that's self-driven. So really interesting plot that happens there. Next, we've got Lisa Scottolini's The Unraveling of Julia. I love this book for its taking me to Italy. I felt like I was there. Great armchair travel, besides a really great story. Next, we've got The View from Lake Como from Adrienne Trigiani. I am going to be interviewing her for the Pocono Book Festival in September. Beatrice Williams, Under the Stars. Dying to read this book, as I am with Ruth Ware's The Woman in Suite 11. Read Shari LaPena's She Didn't See It Coming. It was terrific. Once again, it was my one sit read, but this time I hadn't quite finished it. And I had like a chapter left, and I was going to the gym to swim. And I pulled out the audiobook and I listened to the rest on the way. So I could definitely say it was still my one sit read. And Wayward Girls by Susan Wiggs. So let's go some fiction. We're going to start with Seduction Theory by Emily Adrian. This is on sale this week from Little Brown. Simone is the star of Edward University's creative writing department, renowned wolf scholar, grief memoirist, and campus sex icon. Her less glamorous and ostensibly devoted husband, Ethan, is a forgotten novelist and lecturer in the same department. But when Ethan sleeps with the department administrative assistant, Abigail, the couple's faith in their flawless relationship is rattled. While Ethan is away for the summer, she grows inordinately close to her advisee, graduate student Roberta Robbie Green. But behind Simone's back, Robbie fictionalizes her mentor's marriage in a breathtaking, invasive MFA thesis. Determined to tell her version of the story, Robbie paints a revealing portrait of Simone, Ethan, Abigail, and even herself, scratching at the very surface of what may or may not be the truth. And this is a book group speed dating title. What that says on the bottom is we did a book group speed dating program for the trade a couple of months ago, and this is one of the titles that Little Brown presented. So when you see that in the bottom of the screen, that's what that means. Next from Gallery Books, we've got The Violet Hour from Victoria Benton Frank. And yes, she is the daughter of Dottie Frank. This is on sale this week. Violet Adams is the perfect youngest child in a family of loud, passionate women on Sullivan's Island, South Carolina. As a sweet, traditional one, she's always been the steady hand in her family. But after a sudden breakup and subsequent tragedy, she doesn't know who she is anymore. Allie Knox, Violet's best friend, is a young influencer, still struggling with the loss of her mother and adjusting to joining Violet in a Southern living. With her best friend's help, Violet is determined to break out of her shell and who she thought she was, no matter what. And what better place to look for success, meaning, and possibly love than the low country of South Carolina? I tell you, the books that are sent in the low country make me want to go there so badly just to have like a different lifestyle for a while because it just sounds it's like really fun to be able to just relax and enjoy yourself and really get imbibed in the spirit of what happens there. So that's on my list for someday. Next, from Fanny Flag, as I mentioned before we started, we do have authors coming back this time we haven't heard from in a while. And I love the title of this is Something to Look Forward to. I think it's kind of perfect. She's the author of Fried Green Tomatoes and At the Whistle Stop Cafe. So it's coming on August 19th. Fanny Flagg once said, "What the world needs now is a good laugh." And that is what she gives us in these warm-hearted, always surprising stories about people who are finding clever ways to deal with the curveballs life sometimes throws at us. Velma in Kansas, a loving great grandmother, struggles to bridge generational gaps with her family. We cheer for Helen in Ithaca, New York, who takes an audacious course of action when her husband leaves her for a younger woman. In Bent Fork, Wyoming, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in Tucson, Arizona, and in towns and cities all across America, people figure out inventive ways to overcome obstacles to happiness. And in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Special Agent Frawley is studying the mysteries of being human from an original perspective. So there you go, across the country with something to look forward to. Next, we've got When the Cranes Fly by Lisa Ridson. This book actually was just sent to me yesterday and with a box of tissues, which I always love. And they said that you will be crying as you read this book, but it's the August #1 indie pick. And as my friend said, it's there for a reason. Bo is running out of time, yet time is one of the things he has left. These days, his quiet existence is broken up only by daily visits from his home care team. Fortunately, he still has his beloved elk hound, Sixten, to keep him company, though now his son, with whom Bo has had a rocky relationship, insists on taking the dog away, claiming that Bo has grown too old to properly care for him. The threat of losing Sixten stirs up a whirlwind of emotion, leading Bo to take stock of his life, his relationships, and the imperfect way he's expressed his love over the years. So down on the bottom, one of the quotes from Garth Stein is, "This is a book that will echo in your soul." So you talk about a book that really is going to be calling to me to read next. I think it's When the Cranes Fly South. Next, we've got A New Me by Helen Oyemi. Wait, Tom, you probably have to help me with this one. Oyemi, coming on August 26th. This is really interesting. Kinga is a woman who is just trying to make it through the week. There's a Kinga for every day. Mondays, you can catch Kinga A deleting food delivery apps. By Friday, Kinga E is happy to spend the days soaking wine drunk in the bath. Kingas A through G, perhaps unsurprisingly, live a varied life. Between them is a professional matchmaker, a scent-crazed perfumer, and a window cleaner, all with varying degrees of apathy, anger, introversion, and bossiness. At least 3 of them are team toxic. It's an arrangement that's not without its fair share of admin, grudges, and half-truths. But when Kinga A discovers a man tied up in their apartment, the Kingas have to reckon with the possibility that one of them might be planning to destroy them all. So it's a really strange and interesting book. I've got this one here too. The cover alone looks interesting, and I'm trying to figure out really what A New Me is about. Next, we've got Hot Desk, and I love the cover on this. And one of the lines on the cover says, "I challenge any reader not to fall in love with this charming debut." And I always love taking a look at a debut author and seeing what they're writing. This is coming on September 2nd, right after Labor Day. In the post-pandemic publishing industry, 2 rival editors are forced to share a hot desk on different days of the week, much to their chagrin. Having never set eyes on each other, Rebecca Bloom and Ben Heath begin leaving passive-aggressive post-it notes on the pot of their shared cactus. But when revered literary legend Edward David Adams, known as the Lion, dies, leaving his estate up for grabs, their banter escalates as they both work feverishly to land this career-making opportunity. As their battle for the estate gets more heated, Rebecca learns of a connection between her mother Jane and the Lion. Story travels back 4 decades earlier to when Jane arrives in Manhattan and meets Rose, soon her best friend. But one fateful day during the April blizzard of 1982 will change the course of Jane's life and their friendship forever. So I think I remember the April blizzard of 1982 for a reason, because I had just gotten back from Colorado and it snowed like a foot here. So that part of the book is true. The rest is all made up. I have this book. I'm looking forward to reading it, and it's true. So many people in publishing right now, they've scaled back the floors and the offices are sharing hot desks. So somebody's there Monday, Wednesday, somebody's there Tuesday, Thursday. And I think about like my desk and how I kind of personalize it. Well, actually, it's a lot of mess. But I think about how somebody would walk back into that space every day. Kind of a really great concept for a book. Okay, let me see if I can do this title. I think it's Vienna, and it's by Joanne Harris. Joanne Harris returns to the world of chocolat with a long-awaited story of Vienna, which began 6 years before she opens her scandalous chocolateria in the small French village of, let's see, Lansquenet. On the evening of July 4th, a young woman scatters her mother's ashes in New York and follows the call of the changing winds to the French coastal city of Marseille. For the first time in her life, Vivienne feels in control of her future. Charming her way into a job as a waitress, she tries to fit in, make friends, and come to terms with her pregnancy, knowing that by the time her child is born, the turning wind will have changed again. As she discovers the joy of cooking for the very first time, making most local recipes her own, with the addition of bittersweet chocolate spices, she learns this humble magic has the power to unlock secrets. And yet her gift comes at a price, and Vivienne has a secret of her own, a secret that threatens everything. This too has arrived at my house. It's almost like people were clairvoyant about what we're going to be putting in this presentation. So there you go. Now I've got some historical fiction. As Tom said, we're pretty balanced this time around of what we're presenting. This is the Harvey Girls from Juliet Fay. Charlotte Crowninshield was born into one of the finest Boston society families, and now she's on the run from a brutal husband. Billy McTavish is the oldest of 9 children born to Scottish immigrants in Nebraska. She quit school in the 6th grade to help her with her mother's washing and mending business, but that isn't even enough to keep the family afloat. Desperate, both women join the ranks of the Harvey Girls, waitresses who serve in America's first hospitality chain on the Santa Fe Railroad. Hired on the same day, they share 3 things: a room, a heartfelt dislike of each other, and each has a secret that will certainly get them fired. But when they're sent to work at the luxurious El Tovar Hotel in the Grand Canyon, Billy struggles to hide her young age from would-be suitors, and Charlotte discovers the little-known dark side of the national park's history. So we've got a lot built into this book from Juliet Fay. Next, we've got The Lost Baker of Vienna by Sharon Kurtzman, and you've heard me talking about this book for months. It's on sale next Tuesday. The book is a Book Reporter Bets On selection. I did an interview with Sharon already, which is going to run in September. It's a word of mouth selection, which we'll get into a couple of minutes what that means, and also a fall reading selection. So yes, we are really excited about this book. And even more so, I'm excited after listening to the interview with Sharon. So much of this is based on things that happened in her family. So here's the story. In 2018, Zoe Rosenweig is reeling after the loss of her beloved grandfather, a Holocaust survivor. She becomes obsessed with finding out what really happened to her family during the war. So let's go to Vienna in 1946. Jana Rosenweig has endured the horrors of war to find herself, her mother, and her younger brother finally free in Vienna. But freedom doesn't look like they imagined it would, as they struggle to make a living and stay safe. Despite the danger, Jana sneaks out most nights to return to the hotel kitchen where she works as a dishwasher, using the quiet nighttime hours to bake her late father's recipes. Soon she finds herself caught up in a dangerous love triangle, torn between the black market dealer who has offered marriage and protection and the apprentice baker who shares her passions. How will she balance her love of baking against her family's need for security? When I was talking to Sharon, her mother actually lived in Vienna after the war. And we talked about how the city was controlled by 4 of the different winning countries of World War II, and how her mother told her some of the stories over the years, but finally sat her down, I guess when she was in college, and really shared what had happened to the family all those years. And she's drawing on this inspiration as well as her own love of baking, which has happened through the years. In fact, on her website, she's got a terrific downloadable guide that has great recipes in it, besides having discussion questions. So I'm crazy about this book. I want this to be a big success, and I'm hoping you guys can help us do that. So there you go, The Lost Baker of Vienna. There are not a lot of books about after World War II what happened. We sort of get up to the war is over. And for many people, it's a learning experience about what happened afterwards. I mean, everybody didn't go home and resume their lives. And she talks about in the interview how her family came to America and what happened along the way there. So there we've got The Lost Baker of Vienna. Next, we've got the Book of Lost Hours by Haley Gelfuso. It's coming on August 26th. Enter the time space, a soaring library filled with books containing the memories of those who have passed and accessed but only by specially made watches, once passed from father to son. This is where 11-year-old Lisabeth Levy finds herself trapped in 1938, waiting for her watchmaker father to return for her. When he doesn't, she grows up among the books and specters, able to see the world only by sifting through the memories of those who came before her. As she realizes that government agents are entering the time space to destroy books and maintain their preferred version of history, she sets about saving these scraps in her own volume of memories. Until the appearance of an American spy named Ernest these names sometimes throw me, guys, really. Duthane, in 1949, offers her a glimpse of the world she left behind, setting her on a course to change history and possibly time and space itself. So we've got the Book of Lost Hours. Next, from R.F. Kuang, who's the author of Babel, we've got Catabasis, which is the September #1 indie next pick. Alice Law has only had one goal: to become one of the brightest minds in the field of magic. She sacrificed everything to make that a reality so she can work with Professor Jacob Grimes at Cambridge, the greatest magician in the world. That is until he dies in a magical accident that could possibly be her fault. Grimes is now in hell and she's going in after him because his recommendation could hold her very future in his now incorporeal hands, and even death is not going to stop the pursuit of her dreams. Nor will, in fact, her rival, Peter Murdoch, who has come to the very same conclusion. With nothing but Orpheus and Dante to guide them, they set off across hell to save a man they didn't even like. But there's something in Alice that could forge them into, hold on just one second, the perfect allies or lead them into their doom. Something in their past is connecting them. Next, we've got Amity by Nathan Harris. And when the publisher described this, they were so excited about it. The Civil War might be over, but formerly enslaved Coleman and June have yet to find the freedom they've been promised. 2 years ago, the siblings were separated when their old master, Mr. Harper, took June away to Mexico, where he hoped to escape the new reality of the postbellum South. Coleman stayed behind in Louisiana to serve the Harper family, clinging to the hope one day that June would return. An unexpected letter from Mr. Harper arrives, summoning Coleman to Mexico. Coleman thinks that finally his prayers have been answered. Coleman cannot know is the tangled truth of June's tribulations under Mr. Harper out on the frontier. And when disaster strikes Coleman's journey, he is forced on the run with Mr. Harper's daughter, Florence. Together they venture into the Mexican desert to find June, all the while evading two crooked brothers who will stop at nothing to capture Coleman and Florence and collect the money they're owed. So this is Nathan Harris is also the author of The Sweetness of Water. Next, we've got At Last by Marissa Silver, coming on September 2nd. Helene Sumner and Evelyn Turner are two formidable women whose paths cross when their children marry. Both women are sharp, cunning, and unwavering in their collecting beliefs about marriage, responsibility, and family, and most pressingly, their efforts to vie for the love of their shared granddaughter. How many people have gone through this? Oh my gosh. At Last paints a vivid portrait of the American Midwest, capturing the essence of a time and place where societal norms and personal aspirations often clashed. Marissa Silver's narrative weaves together the lives of Helene and Evelyn from their vastly different childhoods through the pivotal events that define them. And also, just remember that line, vying for the love of their shared granddaughter. I can just picture that scene. Next, we've got Buckeye from Patrick Ryan, on sale on September 2nd as well. In Bohemia, Ohio, a stolen moment of passion sparked by the exuberant aftermath of the Allied victory in Europe binds Cal Jenkins, a man wounded in the war by not his inability to serve in it, to Margaret Salt, a woman trying to obscure her past. Cal's wife Becky has a spiritual gift. She's a seer who can conjure up the dead, helping families connect with those they've lost. Margaret's husband Felix is serving on a Navy cargo ship, out of harm's way until a telegram suggests the unthinkable might have happened. Later, as the country reconstructs its post-war boom, a secret goes in Bohemia, but nothing stays buried for long in a small town. Against the backdrop of some of the most transformative decades in modern America, the consequences of that long ago encounter ripple through the next generation of both families, compelling them to re-examine who they thought they were and what the future might hold. And there's a theme going in this book that's going to come up in another book later on of re-examining what they thought they had and what the future might hold. So next we've got Mercy coming from Joan Silber on September 2nd. In the gritty East Village of the 1970s New York, Ivan and his best friend Eddie, a popular local bartender, are dabbling in drugs following a short shore of Europe. One night, as Ivan and Eddie experiment with heroin, things go terribly wrong. In a panic, Ivan rushes Eddie to a crowded local ER, and believing his friend is about to die, he makes the awful choice to leave him. This one act of abandonment haunts Ivan his entire life. He keeps the secret from his friends and later his family, forever searching for mercy from a remorse that never dies. His decision also ripples across time through an extended community, affecting a host of other people unknowingly connected to that night. And this is what I mean. The book before this and after, it's the consequences of what happens. I think it's a very interesting kind of way to look at something is where's the shift going to happen later on as a result of something that happened. Next, we've got Whatever Happened to Lori Lovely by Sarah McCoy. It's coming on September 2nd. It's one of our fall reading titles that we're going to be having one-day contests about. And I'm hoping to interview Sarah as well. That's not up there yet because I haven't read the book and scheduled a date with her, but I'm hoping to be able to do that. Here we've got the story. 1969, 23-year-old starlet Lori Lovely, an apple of Hollywood's eye, shocks the world by ditching a promising film career to take the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience and as a Benedictine nun. Gossip columnists and scandal sheets can't get enough of the story. Why would such a beautiful girl take the veil? Was she hiding from someone? Did it have anything to do with the tragic death of her co-star, heartthrob Lucas Wesley? In 1990, Lou Tibbett is under the gun to complete her senior thesis in modern American history. Instead of spending weeks in the dusty archives, Lou's decided to dig into a true 20th century mystery and write a book about her Aunt Lori, now the mother abbess at a cloistered convent in rural New England. Mother Lori has refused all requests for interviews until Lou arrives at the Abbey with a tape recorder in hand. To her delight, Mother Lori announces she's finally ready to talk, but only if Lou is truly ready to listen. Let's see what happens there. I've got some thrillers and mysteries. Starting with Lisa Gardner, Kiss Her Goodbye, another word of mouth selection. We'll get into what that means in a couple of minutes. Recent Afghan refugee Sabera Amity was last seen exiting her place of work 3 weeks ago. The local police have yet to open a case, while her older domineering husband seems unconcerned. Sabira's closest friend, however, is convinced that she would never willingly leave her 3-year-old daughter, and at her insistence, missing persons expert Frankie Elkin agrees to take up the search through the broiling streets of Tucson, just in time for a video of the young mother to surface, showing her walking away from the scene of a brutal double murder. Frankie quickly realizes there is much more to the Amity family than meets the eye. Assad also disappears under mysterious circumstances. An attempt is made on Sarah's life. Frankie realizes she must quickly crack the code of this family's horrific past. What I love about this is Lisa, a couple of years ago when I interviewed her, said Frankie was going to be a standalone character. We weren't going to see her in future books. And I think this is the 4th book that Frankie Elkin has been in. So I always love when authors are saying, well, I think this is going to happen, but maybe it doesn't. And the broiling streets of Tucson makes me think of last week when Megan Miranda was reaching out to me from Tucson, and she said, it's 118 degrees here. So broiling streets, Tucson, yeah, I was relating to that from this book when I was talking to her last week. Next, we've got Karen Slaughter's 25th book. She put up a picture of herself with a cake with congratulations yesterday and announced this is her 25th book, We Are All Guilty Here. So welcome to North Falls, a small town where everyone knows everyone, or so they think, until the night of the fireworks when two teenage girls vanish and the town ignites. For Emmy Clifton, it's personal. She turned away when her best friend's daughter needed help. and now she must bring her home. But as Emmy combs through the puzzle, the girls left behind, she realizes she never really knew them. Nobody did. Every teenage girl has secrets, but who would kill for them? And what else is the town hiding? I think that hiding is the word this week that I should have said. How many times do you hear hiding and you can win a prize? I don't know. One time we're going to do that. I promise you. Next, we've got Five Found Dead by Solari Gentiel. It is coming on August 19th, which is Tuesday. Crime fiction author Joe Penvale has won the most brutal battle of his life. And now that he's finished his intense medical treatment, he and his twin sister Meredith are boarding the glorious Orient Express in Paris. Meredith hopes that the literary ghosts on the train will nudge Joe's muse awake. They'll be inspired to write again. After their first evening spent getting to know some of their fellow travelers, Joe pulls out his laptop and opens a new document. The next morning, Joe and Meredith are shocked to witness that the cabin next door has become a crime scene. They soon find themselves caught up in an Agatha Christie-esque murder investigation. And when the steward guarding the crime scene is murdered, it marks the beginning of a killing spree that leaves 5 dead and 1 still missing. So there we've got 5 found dead. Next, from Katherine Fauler, who's the author of Greenwich Park, which I really enjoyed, we've got The Break-In, coming on August 26th. Alice, a professional mother of one, I love that, professional mother of one, that's a really good title, is hosting a playdate with friends at her upscale London home when a disturbed man breaks in. With her child in the next room, Alice panics and kills him, an act later to have ruled to have been in self-defense. Everyone tries to encourage Alice to move on with her life, with strange comments appearing online, a mysterious phone call telling her all is not as it seems, and her husband, nanny, and friends behaving strangely. Alice finds herself drawn to the mystery of who her intruder really was. As she digs deeper, she discovers a trail of dark secrets that spy her closer to home than she ever could have imagined. So there we've got The Break-In. She writes a really good thriller. Next, we've got The Heir by Darcy Wilde, coming from Kensington on August 26th. The Heir is the opening installment in a new mystery series set in 1830s London and starring young Princess Victoria, the future Queen of England, as a rebellious amateur sleuth. Victoria remembers nothing but Kensington Palace. Raised with an incredibly strict regimen to follow, the bright 15-year-old is allowed no freedom at any time. But one fateful afternoon, Victoria slips away from her mother to ride out on her beloved gelding, Prince. Would normally be an uneventful trot around very familiar terrain, presents the princess, with a most bewildering sight. A dead man, and on the grounds of the palace, no less. Determined to get to the bottom of this inscrutable puzzle, Victoria is met with shocking disrespect and any number of obstacles. So there you've got the start of a series, a young Queen Victoria mystery. Next, from Christina Baker Klein and Anne Burt, we've got their first thriller, which is Please Don't Lie, coming on September 1st. 2 years ago, Haley Stone lost everything. First, her parents died in a devastating fire. Then her sister overdosed, leaving Haley alone and hounded by a media circus that turned her family's tragedy into tabloid fodder. When her new husband suggests a fresh start in the Adirondacks, the promise of anonymity in an isolated mountain town feels like salvation. But the mountains hold darker secrets than she ever imagined. Her once loving husband grows distant and volatile. The widow down the road keeps spewing vague accusations. Not even their new friends, a free-spirited couple living on the property, can help Haley shake the creeping sense that something is off. As winter edges closer, Haley discovers that her sanctuary is anything but safe. Trapped and isolated, she faces a terrifying truth. In trying to escape her past, she may have run straight into something far more dangerous. So there we've got Please Don't Lie. Next, from William Kent Kruger, which you know is a longtime friend of the site. We interviewed him a number of times. We've got Apostles Cove, and I'll give you a little hint here. The Morristown Festival of Books is going to happen on October 10th and 11th, and Kent is going to be one of the people I interview on October 11th. Shh, it's still a secret, but just know that I'm going to be interviewing him and Chris Pavoni together. It's going to be a great, great, great day of author events. Mark your calendar. Morristown Festival of Books in New Jersey, October 11th is the day we have a whole showcase of authors. So what happens in the story? A few nights before Halloween, as Cork O'Connor gloomily ruminates on his upcoming birthday, he receives a call from his son Stephen, who is working for a nonprofit dedicated to securing freedom for unjustly incarcerated inmates. Stephen tells his father that decades ago, as the newly elected sheriff of Tamarack County, Cork was responsible for sending an Ojibwe man named Axel Boshi to prison for brutal murder that Stephen is convinced he did not commit. Cork feels compelled to reinvestigate the crime, but that's easier said than done. Not only is it a closed case, but Axel Boshi is inexplicably refusing to help. The deeper Cork digs, the clearer it becomes that there are those in Tamarack County who are willing once again to commit murder to keep him from finding out the truth. So this is going to be one of our fall reading selections. He's also the author of Spirit Crossing, which recently came out in paperback. Next, we've got Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McCauley. It's coming on September 2nd. Hannah has been running from her demons ever since she emerged from a harrowing wilderness trip without her fiancé. No one knows exactly what happened the day Ben died, and Hannah would like to keep it that way, even if his ghost still haunts her with vivid waking nightmares that are ruining her life. So when her friend group gets an exclusive invitation to a restorative spiritual retreat at Joshua Tree, Hannah reluctantly agrees in search of a fresh start. Despite her skepticism of the strange guru Pax and his beliefs in the supernatural world, Hannah soon finds healing through all the yoga, sound baths, and hot springs offered at the tech-free haven. But this peaceful journey of self-discovery quickly descends into a violent fight for self-preservation when a mysterious killer starts picking off retreat attendees in increasingly gruesome ways. So there's Bleed In, Breathe In, Bleed Out. Next, from Robert Galbraith, we have The Hallmarked Man. It's a Cormoran Strike novel, and many of you may realize that Robert Galbraith is J.K. Rowling's pseudonym. Interestingly, she put out a book first in this series years ago, and she says, I'm not going to use my real name, I'm going to use a pseudonym and see how the book does. The book did okay, and then all of a sudden, she got attached to it, and the book rocked onto the New York Times bestseller list, which shows how much pedigree does matter in the book world. So here we've got a dismembered corpse is discovered in the vault of a silver shop. The police initially believe it to be that of a convicted armed robber, but not everyone agrees with that theory. One of them is Decima Mullins, who calls on the help of a private detective, Cormoran Strike, as she's certain the body in the silver vault was that of her boyfriend, the father of her newborn baby, who suddenly and mysteriously disappeared. The more Strike and his business partner, Robin Alcott, delve into the case, the more labyrinthine it gets. The silver shop is no ordinary one. It's located beneath Freemasons Hall, and it specializes in Masonic silverware. In addition to the armed robber and Decima's boyfriend, it becomes clear that there are other missing men who could fit the profile of the body in the vault. So there you've got The Hallmarked Man. Now I've got some memoirs, biographies, and other nonfiction. His first book, Anonymous Mail by Christopher Whitcomb, is one that I have already read. I actually listened to most of it because Chris narrates it. I met Chris years ago, back in September 2021, probably in October, I met him. He wrote a book called Cold Zero, which was a memoir about his time in the FBI. And that is one of those books that has stayed with me. There are so many things that Chris wrote about in that book that I often think about when I see investigations going on in foreign countries, or when I hear the FBI task force being the hostage rescue team being brought into situations. So here's what we've got. September 2001, Chris Whitcomb was the most visible FBI agent in the world. His best-selling memoir, Cold Zero, led to novels, articles in GQ, and op-eds in the New York Times. Then one day in 2006, without warning, he flew into Somalia and dropped off the face of the earth. For 15 years, he waged a mercenary war on himself, traveling the world with aliases, cash, and guns. He built a private army in the jungles of Timor, working contracts for intelligence agencies, where he survived a coup d'etat only to lose his friends, abandon his family, and give up on God. While surfing in the wilds of Indonesia, Whitcomb finds himself trapped beneath a giant wave, where he comes to terms with the chaos of his own clandestine life. He survived the wave to find his way home and rebuild the world that he had abandoned. Really interesting because this is somebody who has been caught up in war, caught up in clandestine operations, and how it becomes kind of, it sort of takes over his life and what happened to him all those years. I will share like a really like off the record interesting story. One night I was in an accident on the FDR. Something happened to my car. This other guy, he says I cut him off. He cut me off, and he ended up the side of the road. So he comes down and he goes, "Look, you're in big trouble because I'm with the FBI." So I looked at him. I was like, "Okay, you're with the FBI." And I sort of took it with a grain of salt. So we're sitting there because we're trying to get the police there because I want to make sure I'm not charged in the fact that he has ruined his two tires by going up the side of the road. So somebody else comes up and he flashes his badge with the FBI. And I know I haven't done anything wrong. So I turned to him. I said, just one second. Chris Whitcomb is a friend of mine. Would you like me to chat with him about what's going on here? And I have never seen somebody turn around and walk back to their car and leave me alone so quickly in my entire life. And someday I hope I get to tell Chris that story because everybody in the FBI definitely knew who he was. And I hadn't done anything wrong. The other guy cut me off and he hit his tires as a result. So there's your story for the day. Next, we've got Changeover by Jerry Nathan. It's coming on August 19th. For more than 2 decades, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Roger Federer dominated men's tennis so thoroughly that it became difficult to manage how the game would keep its shine once they retired. And then came 2024, the first year since 2002 that none of them won a Grand Slam tournament, and a Technicolor future was revealed. The major titles were divided between a pair of prodigies in their early 20s, the effervescent showman Carlos Alcaraz, whose infinite variety of shots won him the French Open and Wimbledon, and the relentlessly cool Jannik Sinner, whose power and precision secured him the Australian Open and the US Open even amid a doping controversy. Though other young contenders jostled for the spotlight and Djokovic tried to hold his ground, the transcendently gifted Alcaraz and Sinner just kept installing their new regime. This book is in here for many, many reasons. First, it sounds really interesting and it's coming out just before the US Open. Second, because editorial Tom as I call Tom, or editorial director to keep him from being confused with husband Tom. Editorial Tom loves tennis, has gotten me very into watching tennis, and I completely agree how Alcaraz and Sinner have completely taken over what's going on. So, anybody who loves tennis, this is the book for them. Next, we've got Backstage by Donna Leone, and it is coming on August 26th. Her memoir, Wandering Through Life, gave her legions of fans a colorful tour through her life, from her childhood in New Jersey to her ventures in China and Iran to her love of Venice and opera. Nowhere, however, did she discuss her writing life. And Backstage, Donna reveals her admiration for and inspiration from the great crime novelists Ruth Rendell and Ross MacDonald, examining their approach to storytelling as she dissects her favorite books of theirs. She expresses her love for Charles Dickens' Great Expectations and her appreciation for Sir Walter Scott's generosity of spirit. And she chronicles the amount of research she undertakes to be undertakes to be able to present authentically through Guido Bernetti and his colleagues, places and characters far from her own experience. There's stories of a writing life. And if anybody's had an interest in what happened behind the scenes for an author, this is the kind of book you really want to be reading. Next, we've got Children of the Book by Lana Kurson. This is coming on August 26th. Alana is a mother of 5 living in Jerusalem, struggling to balance her passion for books with her responsibilities as a parent. Gradually, she learns how to relate to reading not as a solitary pursuit, an escape from the messiness of life, but rather as a way of forging connection and teaching independence. Introducing her children to sacred and secular literature, including the beloved classics of her childhood. She becomes a better mother and a more compassionate reader. Chief among the books that she reads with her children is the Torah, whose ancient wisdom illuminates her family's path. Structured in 5 parts corresponding to the 5 books of the Bible, Children of the Book traces the profound parallels between the biblical narrative and the daily rhythms of parenthood. There's Children of the Book. Next, we've got A Truce That Is Not Peace by Marian Taus, which is coming on August 26th. Why do you write? The organizer of a literary event in Mexico City asked Miriam. Each attempted answer from her, all of them unsatisfactory to the organizer, surfaces new layers of grief, guilt, and futility connected to her sister's suicide. She's been keeping up, she realizes, decades-old internal correspondence, filling a silence she barely understands. And we, her readers, come to see that the question is as impossible to answer as deciding whether to live life as a comedy or tragedy. Marking the first time that she's written her own life in nonfiction, A Truth That Is Not Peace explores the uneasy pact a writer makes with memory. Next, we've got Unbreakable by Vonda Wright. This is a doctor who I actually met at a luncheon that Random House did, and she is really excited about trying to have women age with power. And she is tired of being called to the ER where she comes in and there's a woman who's broken her bone. And she feels that a lot of times it's just because women have not kept themselves healthy and ready to take care of themselves going into aging. More than 70% of women experience musculoskeletal symptoms like joint pain, muscle loss, and reduced bone density by the time they enter perimenopause and menopause. These symptoms of what Wright writes about refer to the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause and can often set us up for osteoporosis, osteopenia, broken bones, increasingly limited mobility, and reduced independence later in life. For her, the trend stops now. Unbreakable outlines a new and direct path to protecting ourselves against this too common fate. Drawing on her decades of experience as a pioneering orthopedic surgeon, helping women at all fitness levels to prepare their bones and regain strength, she gives clear action steps to shield us from the time bombs of aging in 4 critical categories: exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, and supplements. I've been reading this book. I haven't delved into it as deeply as I want to. We're going to be off the week before Labor Day, and I really want to get into it then because I agree that there's too many people that are injured, and it's really just because we haven't kept ourselves up well enough. And I've been working on that over the last year, and I can see a difference, but I want to see what she's saying in this book. Next, we've got The Improbable Victoria Woodhull, Suffrage, Free Love, and the First Woman to Run for President by Eden Collinsworth. Yes, this was the first woman. It's one of our fall reading selections as well. It's coming on September 2nd. In 1894, a remarkably self-possessed American woman with no formal education to speak of stood before a British court seeking damages for libel from the trustees of the British Museum. It was yet another stop along the unpredictable route that was Victoria Woodhull's life. Born dirt poor in obscure Ohio settlement, Woodhull was the daughter of an illiterate mother entranced by the fad of mesmerism, a therapeutic pseudoscience, and a swindler father whose cons exploited his 2 daughters. It was through her mother, though, that Woodhull familiarized herself with the supernatural realm, earning a degree of fame as a clairvoyant and her first taste of financial success. Despite a deeply troubled first marriage at the age of 14, countless attempts by the press to discredit her, and a wrongful jail sentence, Woodhull thrived through sheer determination and the strength of her bond with her sister Tenny. She co-founded a successful stock brokerage on Wall Street, launched a newspaper, and became the first woman to run for president. So this is a piece of nonfiction that about someone I don't think we've heard about before. Next, we've got Mother Mary Comes to Me by Arundhati Roy. It is a soaring account of how Roy became the person and writer she is. Heart smashed by her mother Mary's death in September 2022, yet puzzled and more than a little ashamed by the intensity of her response, Roy began to write to make sense of her feelings about the mother she ran from at age 18. Not because she didn't love her, but in order to be able to continue to love her. And so begins this astonishing, sometimes disturbing, and surprisingly funny memoir of the author's journey from her childhood in Kerala, India, where her single mother founded a school, to the writing of her prize-winning novels and essays through today. So it's interesting. We have a couple of authors that are looking back on their lives and their writing and what influenced them. Okay, so we've got October titles to look forward to. I can't believe we're talking about October already. I'm ready to start gluing leaves back on trees. So we're doing this in two parts. On this presentation, we're going to do the first half of the month. In September, we'll do the second half of the month. And there's a method to this madness that editorial director Tom has figured out, because towards the end of the year, we don't do a presentation in December. So this, trust me, evens everything out. He does this to me every year, and he is so right. So here we go. First book is The Hitchhiker by Chevy Stevens. I've heard from Chevy in a long time. It's coming on October 7th. It's summer of 1976, and Alice and Tom set up to the remote Canadian highways in their new RV, hoping to heal their broken hearts after a devastating tragedy. They plan the trip perfectly and taking care of every detail, and then they meet two young hitchhikers down on their luck and offer them a ride. Simon and Jenny aren't what they seem. They left a trail of blood, destruction, and madness behind them. And now Alice and Tom are trapped, prisoners in a deadly game with nowhere to turn. As the tension builds, the lines blur, and the question becomes, in whose heart does evil truly lie? What secrets are Jenny and Simon hiding, and who will live another day? She's always writing a very, very propelling thriller, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she's doing now. Next, we've got Last Rites by Ozzy Osbourne. If that face doesn't scare you, I'm not sure what does. It's coming on October 7th. At the age of 69, Osbourne was a triumphant farewell tour, playing to sold-out arenas and rave reviews all over the world, and then disaster. Matter of just a few weeks, he went from being hospitalized with a finger infection to having to abandon his tour and all public life as he faced nearly total paralysis from the neck down. Last Rites is the shocking, bitterly hilarious, never-before story of Ozzy's descent into hell. And along the way, he reflects on his extraordinary life and career, including his marriage to wife Sharon, as well as his reflections on what it took for him to get back on stage. The triumphant Back to the Beginning concert streamed around the world, where he reunited with his Black Sabbath bandmates for the final tour. As we all know, he passed away recently, which is going to make this book even bigger. Next, from Jan Karen. Told you we had a bunch of authors we haven't heard from, folks, and I wasn't kidding. This is My Beloved by Jan Karen, which is on sale on October 7th. It's the long-awaited 15th installment in her Mitford series. When Father Tim's wife Cynthia asks what he wants for Christmas, he pens the answer in a love letter that bears his most private feeling. Then the letter goes missing and circulates among his astonished neighbors. So much for private. Can a letter change a life? Ask Colleen, the piano teacher who has avoided her feelings for a lifetime. Ask Cope, the village bookseller, who desperately needs something that's impossibly out of reach. Or if you'd like to know how a brush with death can be portal to a happy marriage, Cynthia's going to tell you about that. My Beloved, Harley gets an important letter of his own. A broken heart teaches the old mayor, Esther Cunningham, a lesson that's been a long time coming, and that's thanks to Lace and Dooley, readers get what they've been waiting for. Sadie. So there you go, Jan Karen lovers. Time to pick up her latest. Next, we've got Sharp Force coming from Patricia Cornwell on October 7th. October 7th is going to be a big day in case you didn't figure that out yet. During the early hours of Christmas morning, Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Kay Scarpetta receives a chilling call. The phantom slasher has struck again. The serial killer has terrorized Northern Virginia for months. His pattern is to stalk with a very sophisticated technology that enables him to invade his victims' homes and watch their every move. They wake up to a ghost-like hologram before being murdered in their beds. Scarpetta is summoned to Mercy Island, the site of the notorious psychiatric hospital where two people have been brutalized, one of them from Scarpetta's past. It soon becomes apparent that she could be next. So there we've got Sharp Force. The Mitch album, we've got Twice, also coming on October 7th. When he's 8 years old, Alfie Logan discovers the magical ability to get a second chance at everything. He can do any moment and live it again. One catch, he must accept the consequences of his second try, for better or worse. Eventually, Alfie turns his gift to his love life, studying his crushes and going back to make oneself even more appealing. In time, he falls deeply in love with Gianna, the woman he believes is the one. He seems to find contentment, but as the years pass, Alfie's eyes begin to wander, which is when he learns a lone caveat to his power. Once he undoes a love, that person can never fall in love with him again. Knowing that if he gives in to temptation, he will risk losing what he has with Gianna, Alfie makes a choice that changes his life forever. So there we've got twice. Next, from Philippa Gregory, we've got Bolin Traitor coming on October 14th. Jane Boleyn watches from the shadows of the Tudor court, where secrets are currency, every choice is dangerous, and even the faintest whisper can seal the fate of queens. For Jane, survival demands playing every role required of her, a loving wife who conceals her doubts, a devoted sister to Anne Boleyn at the height of her power, an obedient spy who carefully wields her words. But in a court ruled by ambition and a tyrant's sword, Jane must rely on her sharp wit and skillful maneuvering to outthink those around her, knowing that one wrong move could cost her everything. Next, we've got Future Boy by Michael J. Fox and Nell Fortenberry. Okay, this is coming on October 14th. In early 1985, Michael J. Fox was one of the biggest stars on television. His world was about to get even bigger, but only if he could survive the kind of double duty unheard of in Hollywood. Fox's days were already dedicated to rehearsing and taping the hit sitcom Fine Family Ties. But then the chance of a lifetime came his way, and soon he was committed his nights to a new time travel adventure film being directed by Robert Zemeckis and produced by Steven Spielberg, Back to the Future. So Fox's nightly commute from the soundstage of Paramount to the backlot of Universal Studios, from one dream job to another, would become his own space-time continuum. As Future Boy, Fox tells the remarkable story of playing two landmark roles at the same time. Using new interviews with the cast and crew of both projects, the result is a vividly drawn and eye-opening story of creative achievement by a beloved icon. And I remember reading about this in the past of he would just from one studio, it's not even on the same studio lot. He was going to different places and learning lines for both and performing in both. And it was a really, really interesting time of what you were doing in 1985 and to look back on it. Okay, now we've got the pair up of the fall, which is Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben. Yes, the two of them wrote together, and they wrote Gone Before Goodbye, which is coming on October 14th. Upside down, after a devastating series of tragedies leads to her medical license being revoked, Army combat surgeon Maggie McCabe has lost her purpose, but not her nerve or her passion. At her lowest point, she's thrown a lifeline by a former colleague, an elite plastic surgeon whose anonymous clientele demand the best care money can buy, as well as absolute discretion. Halfway across the globe, one of the world's most mysterious men requires unconventional medical assistance. Desperate, and with one of the few surgeons in the world skilled enough to take a job, Maggie enters his realm of unspeakable opulence and fills her end of the agreement. But when the patient suddenly disappears while still under her care, Maggie must become a fugitive herself, or she will be the next one who is gone before goodbye. There you go. It's not like a television show, Gone Before Goodbye. Who wants to bet it's going to become a television show? Ha, so clairvoyant, R.I. Okay, next we've got Joyride from Susan Orlean, which is coming on October 14th. It's a magic carpet ride through her life and career where every day is an opportunity for discovery and every moment holds the potential for wonder. Through her storied career, Orlean's curiosity draws her to explore the most ordinary and extraordinary of places, from going deep inside the head of a regular 10-year-old boy for a legendary profile, the American Man aged 10, to reporting on a woman who owns 27 tigers, from capturing the routine magic of Saturday night to climbing Mount Fuji. Orlean takes us through her process of dreaming up ideas, managing deadlines, connecting with sources, chasing every possible lead, confronting writer's block and self-doubt, and crafting the perfect lead, a Susan specialty. Should be a lot of fun. It's coming on October 14th. And once again, we've got another author talking about their craft. Nicholas Sparks with M. Night Shyamalan. Let's see if I can do that. Shyamalan. Shyamalan. Okay. Coming on October 14th. When New York architect Tate Donovan arrives in Cape Cod to design his best friend's summer home, he's hoping to make a fresh start. Recently just discharged from an upscale psychiatric facility where he was treated for acute depression, he's still wrestling with the pain of losing his beloved sister. Sylvia's deathbed revelation that she can see spirits who are still tethered to the living world, a gift that runs in their family, sits uneasily with Tate, who struggles to believe in more and than of what reason can explain. But when Tate takes up residence at a historic bed and breakfast on the Cape, he encounters a beautiful young woman named Wren, who will challenge every assumption he has about his logical and controlled world. When Tate and Wren find themselves forging an immediate connection. But Tate gradually discovers that beneath the surface of Wren's idyllic small town life, hatred, jealousy, and greed are festering, threatening their fragile little relationship just as it begins to blossom. So there you've got Remain. Okay, we've got some notable August paperbacks here. We've got Nicholas Sparks' Counting Miracles, Death at the Sign of the Rook by Kate Atkinson, Familiaris by David, I'm going to say this one again, Roblewski, The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali, just out in paperback this last week, and it is doing amazingly well. She's been on tour and the crowds have been amazing. Book is terrific. Different cover. So for those of you who say, oh, wait, is this a new book? Change the cover here. Out of Darkness by Aaron Rodgers with Ian O'Connor. Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout. Butcher by Joyce Carol Oates. Jodi Pico's by Any Other Name. The Haunting of Moscow House by Elisa Selnova Gilmore. The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern by Linda Cohen-Loyman. John Grisham and Jim McCluskey's Framed, and Louise Penny's The Gray Wolf. Got on sale dates for those that are not on sale now. Okay, that's selections so far. I guess I'm up to 25. I don't count. The staff counts. I don't count. I just go by the books that I find interesting. So here's what I've got so far. Here's what I've got coming up, which is the Sherry LePena. She didn't see it coming. This Happened to Me by Kate Price was a really interesting book last week that is in the same tone of Dear Sister and Seeking Shelter. Two books that were about topics that I think that are interesting, that nonfiction that we have not looked at enough. This one is about child trafficking and what happened to her as a child, where her father was bringing her to rest stops and offering her for sex as a very young child. And this happened to me, and it tells the story of her figuring out and coming to terms with what happened to her all those years ago. And finally, The Lost Baker of Vienna, which we spoke about earlier. Okay, we've got the current Book Reporter Talks to Video podcast to Francesca Saratella about Full Bloom. It will have you thinking about fragrance and what we do to develop fragrance in a whole new way. Culpability by Bruce Holsinger and Megan Abbott's El Dorado Drive. Okay, we've got fall reading contests. We just wrapped up summer reading, and yes, we're ready for fall. These are 8 of the books that we're going to be talking about. The first 2 contests are going to be up on the 19th and the 20th. The first will be The Lost Baker of Vienna. The second will be The Heir by Darcy Wilde. So we've got 2 books, and this is what's coming up for the rest of the season. Be sure to sign up for the fall reading newsletters. They come into your mailbox on the day the contest runs at 12 o'clock, and you have 24 hours to enter the contest. And I'll share that I'm reading Hank Phillippe Ryan's All This Could Be Yours right now, and it is so good. It's about an author that's on a book tour and what is happening to her on the book tour, because what has she kind of hidden in her life and what is going to be exposed. I'm really enjoying it. I finished the book. Let me go back because I never remember titles because I'm really bad at this. I finished, a second. All this is my story. Wait a second. let me go back one more. This happened to me, and I immediately picked up All This Could Be Yours on Sunday afternoon, and it was 125 pages in, standing by the side of the pool reading, because it was one of those compulsive reads. So there you've got, these books are coming up that we're excited about. Our word of mouth contest. Okay, you have until Friday, August 22nd, which is a week from Friday, to jump into our word of mouth contest. This is where you tell us what you've read and just tell us a little bit about it. And you're automatically entered to win these two titles, Kiss or Goodbye, Lost Baker, Vienna. Three people win. Francesca does a great job of alerting the winners, alerting the publishers. So you want to be entered in this contest. Two terrific books, but we need your input because you got to tell us what you're reading right now at the word of mouth contest. We've also got a special contest that is running on Reading Group Guides, an opportunity to win one of 25 copies of this book, The Librarians of Lisbon by Suzanne Nelson. It has been getting a lot of acclaim. It came out earlier this year, and we wanted to spread the book about this even more. So we're running this special contest. You have to go out and enter on Reading Group Guides by Wednesday, September 24th. It gives you time, but don't miss the opportunity to enter for The Librarians of Lisbon. Okay, our next Bookaccino Live will be an evening event. Our next evening event will be on Tuesday, September 16th at 8 p.m. And sign up is available now on Bookreporter and Reading Group Guides. And this is where we're going to do our evening. We do a big preview of everything that's happening in fall. For us, fall starts, I think Tom and I said September 9th because we did the September 2nd and the other preview, September 9th, and go into December. So they're books that we think you'll be enjoying reading. And it will be different from the presentation. Our next Bookaccino Live presentation is the afternoon event. It's a preview of books releasing from September 9th to 30th and a peek ahead at that second half of November plus of October plus November. This is Tom's method to madness. Believe me, he knows what he's doing. And that's going to be on Wednesday, September 10th. Can't believe we're going to be talking September already at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So thank you, everybody, for joining us now. We appreciate your joining us. We hope you learned about books that you're ready to read and talk about and share with others. So thanks, everybody, for joining us.